Hey everybody, I'm Doug.
And I'm Whit.
And we are
The
Stream Team.
They'll never cease to not make me laugh.
That's good. We're supposed to be happy and having fun here, right? So this is episode 14 of our series. If you're just joining us for the first time, this series is meant for people who are just starting out with video production and want to learn how to do live production and live streaming. So we've covered cameras and switchers and audio, and we're bringing in another piece of the puzzle today. So we're going to talk about how you hook a computer into your video switcher. Maybe you got like a PowerPoint presentation, or somebody wants to display a video, or even if you want to do like graphics, like lower thirds, show people's names on screen. That's all done through a computer. So then the channel should be hitting 10,000 subscribers on that day, and also 1.5 million views for the channel. Yeah. So
crazy.
We're going to be doing a live stream to celebrate. We're going to dress up. We're going to find some sort of game that we can all play.
We're going to eat cake and you don't get any. Sorry.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're just going to we'll live stream it. We'll involve people that are watching, and we'll take questions, and might be kind of cool if we actually if people send in videos, like say hi, and we can play some of those during
and dress up.
Yeah, dress up. Yep.
At least wear a hat or something. Party hat. Right?
So yeah, we've got some other things that we're planning for that are going to be surprise. So yeah, so lots of fun. Anyway, so get my that's not product placement. I was just thirsty.
No one's sponsoring us.
We're sponsoring ourselves.
Yeah, pretty much.
DJP is sponsoring.
Yeah. There we go.
So we've talked about how to hook up cameras to switchers, and computers are kind of a different animal altogether. Computers tend to have HDMI outputs on them, like cameras do, but there's some unique challenges that come from this.
Right.
So if someone happens to have an ATEM Mini, and there's a handful of other switchers, they'll automatically convert whatever video format comes into them to whatever video format you're working with. There's a lot that don't, and even if you do have that capability, it's actually not necessarily the right way to do it. So imagine, for example, you've got a video a client gave you that's shot in 1080p 24 frames per second. Then your computer is displaying at 60 frames per second. So it's doing this weird conversion to make 24 frames work with a 60 frame output.
Because that's what the setting is in the computer?
That's the default of pretty much all computers, yeah. So when you plug it in, they kind of default to 60 frames per second. At least here in North America. Other parts of the world, it's going to be 50 frames per second. But yeah, that's the default. So you just plug it in.
I never knew that.
Yeah, that's kind of the way.
That's weird.
Yep.
I don't understand. Most people don't use 60 frames as like the
computers have basically for forever.
Default.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then television sporting events tend to be 60 frames per second. So you can see more of the action that's going on. Like more frames makes the motion seem more realistic, basically. So you got some trouble there converting 24 to 60, and then to make matters worse, if your switcher is set for 30 frames per second, it's having to do a conversion from that 60 to 30. So your original 24 is going to look really weird on your switcher because it's gone through two different conversions. So just plugging in the computer is probably not the best way to handle this. And not only that, some computers are a little less cooperative, Max, than in PCs, so.
We have a debate over Mac and Apple, or Mac and PC. I still like Macs.
A lot of people do, but they can be a real problem in a video production environment. They don't allow you to adjust those settings out of the box, so you have to go get some weird software that you may not be able to trust. It's hard to find. Apple keeps breaking it too, so you install the software, do a software update on your computer, and all of a sudden the software doesn't work anymore. Kind of a real problem.
That sucks.
Apple doesn't.
Updates.
Yeah, Apple doesn't really want you to be able to control the output of your HDMI port on your computer, so they kind of make it hard.
Those snobs.
So,
I don't understand that.
You said it, not me.
I know they are. I just like the stuff.
Yeah, and the other problem is, particularly with Macs, if you're playing back copyrighted content, you have to have copy protection on whatever device you're connecting to, and video switchers do not support that at all. Right. So you go to play a video that's copyrighted, your signal on your switcher just goes blank, completely dead. You don't see
you're
it.
Stealing it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Unfortunately, Macs go into that mode a lot more than Windows computers do, even if you're not playing copyrighted content. So it's a problem you kind of have to deal with if you're going to try and hook a Mac into these. And legally, I can't tell you how to get around that. There are ways. Yeah, exactly. There are ways to do it, but I can't legally tell you how. So, yeah, just do
Leave a message.
just leave. Just go do a search on YouTube for other videos that are made outside the United States.
Oh, okay. That works too.
So, yeah, I could get in trouble if I tell people how to do it. It's not hard.
Oh.
But I can't tell you how to do it.
Okay.
But that is another potential problem. So we got a couple challenges. So we've also got another one I didn't even mention. You got a resolution mismatch. So if your switcher is running at 1080 and your computer only has a 720p screen, you got a mismatch there. So you got to do something about that. You know?
Okay.
So the A10 Mini kind of can work with some of these issues, but a lot of the other switchers on the market don't. Like even my high dollar expensive fancy one doesn't.
It won't do that?
Doesn't do that, yeah. It's becoming more and more common. More and more switchers that are coming on the market can actually do that conversion, but most don't. So we have to have some sort of way to do that, to deal with that.
Just because it's more expensive to do that?
Yeah, because you have to have more electronics in there. You have to have electronics that know how to resize and to convert a 60 frame source to 30 frame or whatever. So it's becoming more common, but it has not traditionally been something that switchers automatically include. So unfortunately, A10 Mini Series does. So
that's something I wouldn't even think about. I would just assume it would do it.
Right. Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of the time you plug it in and nothing happens.
Why it's not happening? Yeah.
Even with the converter in there, it's still way better to make sure your computer is outputting the video format that your switcher is running. All right, so in Windows, if you want to change your settings, you can go into Display Settings. There's some weirdness here when you do this mirroring thing. Like when I'm mirroring my display here and outputting on the HDMI, there's some weirdness, and I can't necessarily tell you how to get around it because there is no definitive way how. But so if I go to Display 2, which is my HDMI port, and then scroll down and say Display Adapter Properties for Display 2. I don't know why it pops up in the back, but it does. And then I say List All Modes.
Windows. Just kidding.
At least it has the option. Mac doesn't have it at all.
That's true, yeah.
So, well, here's the weird thing, right? So I look at this and it's like 60 hertz for everything. So my switcher is running at 30 frames per second. And the computer can't output 30 frames per second when I'm in this mirroring mode. So we've got another dilemma on our hands. So now it's a little bit different if I actually tell it, instead of mirroring the primary display, that I actually want to make this two separate displays. So I say extend these displays instead of duplicate. All right, so just 1 second. Keep changes, and then I'll move this over to the screen so you guys can see it. So display 2 is my monitor, or my switcher actually. So if I go into advanced display settings now, it's a separate display, totally separate display. So at this point I actually can start to make some settings changes. So go into list all modes again. Bingo, now we've got some other refresh rates. So switcher is running at 1080p 2997. So Windows lists that as 1080p 1920 by 1080. True color 32-bit at 29 hertz. So if I say OK on this and then hit apply, you're just going to reset briefly, and now
shut down. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, don't panic. So now the computer is actually outputting the same signal that the switcher is expecting. So things will look
and that's just
right
in the advanced settings.
Yeah. So just very quickly go there again. So I'll right click on the desktop, display settings, and then actually you want to click on the monitor you want to change first, and then scroll down, advanced display settings, display adapter properties. Yeah, it's buried. It's buried. Yeah, and then list all modes, and then you'll be able to see all your different options. So yeah, you'll notice a couple options in there for interlaced. Unless you're shooting 1080i, you don't want those.
Right.
So yeah. So that's.
I didn't know hertz was equivalent with frames per second.
Yeah.
I think I asked you that last time. I was like, what is hertz?
Yeah, it's just the computer terminology. So if hertz just means cycles, how many times something happens per second. So so frames per second is happening that many times per second, right? So yeah, just the computer.
Trying to confuse us. That's
yep,
fine.
Exactly. So all right, now that said, you're working an event where you've got different presenters, they all bring in their own laptops, or you're using a Mac and you can't change the setting, you need another way to deal with this.
Right.
So that's where video converters actually come in. So this is a little converter from Decimator Design. It's called the MDHX. They've got a bunch in this series. These things are invaluable when you're dealing with connecting a laptop. So what you can do, power this thing on. This thing not only converts from like HDMI to SDI and in the other direction, vice versa. It actually will convert video formats too. So if you're in the menu, control menu, and I'm going to say enter. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the HDMI port from the computer and then plug it into the HDMI input of this device. And then in this case, I'm going to hook the HDMI output of this into the HDMI port of the switcher here. So, all right. So this HDMI cable is coming from the computer. So that's this cable here. It goes to the HDMI input of this converter, and then I'm going to take another HDMI cable, plug in the output of this device into...
That's an HDMI cable?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it theirs?
Yes. Yeah, it's one that came with this device. So,
okay.
so that's why it matches.
The color, yeah.
And then I'm going to take that and plug that into input 2 of the switcher. All right, and then at that point, then I can go in the menu. Well, first of all, let's make sure we're reading a signal. So if we go back to input status, it's a little hard to read on camera, but the second or the third line there, it says H3GA 1080p 5994. That's the signal it's getting from the computer. So the computer reverted back to 59.94 frames per second again, because that's what they like to do. You know, that's their default. So that's the only one we're concerned with. So we'll go over here to control, and I'm going to tell it that I want. So the SDI output source, we don't care about that here. We want to change the HDMI output source, and that's set to scalar. And that's actually what we want here. So the scalar is the piece of equipment inside of here that converts one video format to another. So basically we're saying we want to take the output of the scalar and send that to the HDMI port. All right, so that's already done. And I'm going to go back out one more time and then go over to the scaling menu, say enter, and then it says output format. Now it's already set on the right one here, so it says 1080p 2997. That's the one that I want.
Okay.
So now let's change that. But if I needed to, hit the enter, and then you can arrow between the different ones that are there. So 2997 is the one we want. So in theory, oh, and the other thing I need to change, control the scalar source. Yeah, they call it duck.
The scalar source.
Down-up converter.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's HDMI in. So that's basically saying I'm going to take the HDMI source, send that to the scalar, and the scalar is going to go to the HDMI output, and then I change the scalar to convert to 1080p at 2997, right?
Okay.
So with that, this device should be taking the output of my computer and sending it over to the switcher in the format that it's expecting, right? So we're going through it's actually going through the conversion now. So having something like this is really, really nice to have, because presenter comes in with their laptop, they just plug in their HDMI connection. This says, I don't care what format you send me, I'm going to always send that 1080p 2997 that the switcher needs to the output. So whatever format, whether it's 1080p 5994 or 720p or whatever, this is going to convert to the right format that the switcher is expecting.
Is that the only way to convert it?
It's not the only way. I'm sure, in fact, I have another device here, another one from Blackmagic, that does the same sort of thing. I prefer this because it has the user interface. You can navigate through this one. When you want to set it up, you have to flip these switches. Little more hassle. They're little tiny ones.
Yeah, I was like, those are switches?
Yeah. Yep.
We use a toothpick?
Toothpick or a pen or pencil or
Why would they do that?
Pocket knife. It's cheaper to build.
Oh, okay.
So they're trying to save money on.
Was this for ants?
Yeah, basically.
That's crazy.
So yeah, you figure out which format you want on a little chart back here, and then flip the switches to match that pattern. These are like half the price of this. So if budget is of concern, you can pick up one of these things, right? Conversion quality roughly the same. So I use both. I use this more. I'll be honest. I like these better, but these will do the same thing. The one downside to this compared to this, besides the way you configure it, this will only convert one direction at a time. So HDMI or SDI in, and whichever one you plug in gets sent to both the SDI and HDMI outputs. Whereas this one, you can have one signal being converted on HDMI and another signal being converted on SDI. So you can do two-direction conversion at the same time. I use that a lot when I'm doing like business conferences and things like that. So I'll have the one direction laptop into my video switcher, and then I'll have signal come in the other direction. SDI input comes from my switcher, and then the HDMI output here goes to the projector. So, I'm basically getting two conversions out of one device. With that, that kind of takes care of most of the scenarios that you might run into. I've got a much more detailed video on this here on the channel. I did a while back. So if you want more information, I cover 7 different challenges of hooking laptops into a video production system. But this kind of covers the ones you're going to run into most. So with this kind of a setup, you're going to be covered most of the time. The only real situation you might run into is going to be the copy protection.
Right.
Yeah, which you have to deal with separately from. It's actually not too hard if you have the right equipment. So having one of these in your bag of tricks.
I feel like that's the moral of every video.
Yeah.
It's not that bad until you have the right equipment.
Right.
So
we'll cover how to do transparency in graphics. So if you want to do a lower third on somebody's name, we'll cover that in another video. That's a topic that's going to take a little bit of time to discuss. But suffice to say, you can create a graphic on a computer, run it through a device like this into your switcher, and then with the right settings, you can overlay it on top of. Yeah, and then with live, you're typically working with more sources. With film, you typically have one camera, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
But with live, you might be running, like we're running 8 video sources to produce this video right now. You know?
Yeah.
8 sources, like seriously, crazy?
It's an insane amount of more stuff.
Yeah.
That's all it is. But
So
I need to visually see it, and I'll probably not even know what I'm doing. I'll just like visualize that and then plug in the cords and hope something happens.
Yep. Yeah. Outputs to inputs.
Yeah,
that should be the theme of the channel.
all I need to know.
Outputs to inputs.
There you go.
Where does the signal come from? Where do you need it to go? You know. So, and in this case, how do you change the signal so that it's compatible with the equipment you're connecting it into? So.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Next episode is a Q&A.
Oh.
Yep.
Yep. Share, like, subscribe.
Yep.
We want to get to 10,000 subscribers like very soon. The numbers kind of keep going up and down, so
Yeah.
you guys can share it and like get the word out so we can have our party.
Yes. Tentatively on, I think it's August 10th.
Oh, that's kind of perfect.
Yeah.
10,000. Let's shoot for that day.
That's our current plan. So
Okay.
I think we probably shouldn't shift it anymore. So even if the number starts to slip, and maybe it's Tuesday when we hit the 10,000. So, but
We don't want that, so
yeah.
help us.
Yeah. All right. Where can they find you?
Witty Film Girl, Instagram.
Yep.
It's usually all I use. I have YouTube. There's just a couple interviews on there, and then some stuff about my ebook, Get Your Story Straight.
And your
for
website
storytelling.
is?
WhitIngramFilm.com.
Yes. Got a book that she wrote about how to help develop a story for film. So if that's your thing, go check it out. Yeah. The Instagram for DJP is DJP_video. And my personal one is God Gadgets. Thanks everyone for watching, and have a fantastic day.